Welcome to Literary Journeys with River. Today, we're diving into A Shadow in the Ember, a story where fate, betrayal, and desire collide in the most unexpected ways. Remember, this is just a summary, not the full book. If you enjoy content like this, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Also, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. It really helps the channel grow and reach more readers like you. Get ready to explore a world where nothing is simple and every choice comes at a cost. Let's get started. Prologue. The consort promised to the primogenitor of death. Seraphena Mierel, prepared to fulfill the ancestral bargain her lineage sealed with the primogenitor of death, faces her fate in the Shadow Temple on her 17th birthday. Dressed like a chosen one, covered by a veil and wrapped in a mixture of nerves, resignation, and obedience, she is guided toward the empty throne that will mark the beginning of her new life. However, when the primogenitor finally appears shrouded in shadows and light, shock seizes Sera as she hears his sentence. He does not need a consort. His rejection shakes the hall and unleashes a devastating reaction in Queen Khalif, her mother. The future of Lysania, tied to that pact, teeters. The bargain has been broken, and with it, the hope of saving the kingdom from the blight. Marked by humiliation and failure, Sera vows to fulfill her true purpose, to destroy the primogenitor before he destroys her world. Chapter 1. Sera's vengeance against the lords of Vodina. 3 years after the primogenitor's rejection, Seraphena, now ignored by her mother and denigrated as a mere maiden, silently witnesses Lord Claus's challenge, envoy from the Vodina Isles. The negotiation brutally fails with the delivery of the royal counselor's head. Khalif, unperturbed, orders Sera to send a harsh message. That night, Sera follows the lord to the harbor and, after verbally seducing him, kills him with an Umbra stone dagger. Her training with Sir Holland and her profound inner void have made her a precise and lethal weapon. With terrifying efficiency, she eliminates the entire retinue and sets his ship adrift. Afterwards, she heads to El Lux seeking solace and anonymity when she witnesses a divine crime. A goddess and her companions murder a man and a baby with either. Her urge to intervene is restrained by an unknown god who immobilizes her. In a tense encounter charged with attraction, Sera, marked by her past, kisses him. Chapter 2. Sera's Kiss and the Silver-Eyed God. The mysterious god who stops Sera after the baby's murder drags her into a tunnel, protecting her from being discovered by the homicidal gods. Despite her struggle, Sera fails to break free and faces him with ferocity. The god, unshaken, maintains control, reproaching her recklessness and revealing a strange blend of arrogance and compassion. She, between anger and bewilderment, tries to regain dominance, but their physical proximity awakens unexpected tension. To hide, he lifts her and incites her to kiss him. What begins as a tactic turns into an intense kiss, marked by fangs, desire, and mutual vulnerability. The connection between them is undeniable, though neither reveals their identity. Upon parting, the god wipes her blood and warns that the killers will pay. Sera walks away determined, but carries with her a strange sensation. She should not have left, and that god was not like the others. Chapter 3. Sera's investigation in the Kazan house. Sera returns to the place where she witnessed the murder of the baby and the man, determined to understand the reasons behind the crime. Upon reuniting with the silver-eyed god, they inspect the scene together. Although Sera distrusts his intentions, she accepts his company as they search the house. They discover that the deceased were Galen and Magus Kazan, brothers and possible fallen nobles. An empty cradle, ordered clothes, and other marks on the floor reveal a meticulous attack. The god, cold but intrigued, reveals it was not an isolated incident. There are already 7 similar deaths. The emotional connection between them intensifies, but so does the conflict. Armed with an Umbra stone dagger, Sera challenges the god, who responds with tension and restrained desire. In the end, he warns her to stay out of the matter. But Sera, stubborn, makes it clear that no god will decide for her what affects her or not. Chapter 4. Training with Holland and the burden of being the trap. During a hard training session with Sir Holland, Sera demonstrates her skill, but also reveals her frustration over the pressure she carries. Holland reminds her that, without royal protection, her life is in constant danger. Despite rumors and threats, he continues training her because he believes the primogenitor will return. Sera, however, feels empty and failed. She remembers that her sole purpose was to make the primogenitor of death fall in love with her to kill him and save Lysania. Upon visiting her, Odetta forbids her to use her taboo gift to revive her and reminds her that the fates marked her with life and death. No one knows what that means. Laden with doubts, Sera confronts her void. She was raised as a weapon, never as a person. Although Holland considers her a warrior, she feels like a martyr. The hope that the primogenitor will return is the only thing keeping her preparation alive for a destiny that may never come. Chapter 5. The Dagger, the Queen, and Sera's Fatal Mistake. Sera visits her mother's hall, where she faces Queen Caliph's cold rejection, still blaming her for having failed her mission with the primogenitor. Humiliated and furious, Sera leaves Wayfair. As she wanders aimlessly, her steps lead her to the Temple of Phanos, but a burning sensation in her chest alerts her. Death is near. Sensing something, she follows her instinct to the home of Andrea Janice, the royal seamstress. There, she finds her corpse, charred and eyeless, with wing-shaped marks etched by either. Before she can process the horror, someone takes her by surprise. Sera reacts instinctively and plunges her Umbra stone dagger into the assailant's chest. Only then does she see his face. It is the silver-eyed god. Terrified by what she has done, she understands she has wounded him with a weapon capable of killing even gods and primogenitors. Chapter 6. Andrea Janice's Cursed Rebirth. After stabbing the god by accident, Sera is surprised to see that he survives, annoyed but not furious. The exchange between them intensifies with sarcasm, tension, and latent desire, while he destroys the Umbra stone dagger to prevent being wounded again. Although the argument escalates, the god studies her with growing interest, calling her Liesa, a word that alludes to something precious and powerful. While investigating Andrea Janice's corpse together, Sera perceives an anomaly. The body moves. Andrea resurrects with fangs and inhuman movements. She lunges at them, forcing the god to kill her with his Umbra stone sword. Andrea's body disintegrates into ashes, leaving no trace. No one understands what happened, but the god believes Nyktos did more than kill her. As he leaves, he advises Sera to forget what occurred, but she only wants to know what Liesa really means, a word the god refuses to fully define. Chapter 7. Ezra's Plan and the Mercy Lady's Request. During another training session, Sera cannot help but think about what happened with Andrea. Haunted by the image of the resurrected woman, she asks Sir Holland if it is possible for a dead person with fangs to return, but he dismisses it as an abomination. At that moment, Ezra interrupts with an urgent mission. A girl rescued by the courtesans of El Jade needs help. Her younger brother, Nate, still lives with his father, Nor, a violent man who forces the boy into crime and possibly worse. Lady Sunders fears for his life. Ezra needs Sera to infiltrate Nor's criminal network, pretending to seek employment to rescue the boy. Although the plan involves risks, Sera accepts without hesitation. She must dress seductively and ready her iron dagger. As she prepares, she reflects on the state of the kingdom and the possibility that the blight may not disappear. Her decision is made. She will go to save Nate. Chapter 8. Norse Death and Nate's Rescue. Dressed provocatively, Sera arrives at Croft's Cross alongside Ezra and Marisol. In the heat and misery of the district, she finds the building with red shutters and confronts Nor, a repulsive man who exploits women and mistreats his son. Pretending to seek work, Sera endures his repulsive closeness while locating Nate, the boy. Once she knows he is safe, she stops pretending and, with calculated coldness, draws her iron dagger and cuts Nor's throat, who bleeds out in spasms. She takes his bag of coins, cleans the weapon, and gathers Nate, carefully convincing him that his sister is waiting. Outside, she delivers a silent warning to Molly, another victim of the man. Back in the carriage, Ezra notices the blood on Sera's dress, and she jokes about the accident. Ezra, half serious and half amused, admits something obvious. Sera scares him a little. Chapter 9. The Forbidden Gift and the Wounded Kiyu Wolf. Sera ventures into the Dark Elms to grapple with the lingering guilt after killing Nor. Despite her attempts to convince herself that she only eliminated monsters, doubt about her own humanity eats at her. In the forest, she finds a majestic Kiyu wolf wounded by an arrow, dying. Although she knows using her gift to bring life back is forbidden, instinct and compassion take over. Alone, and remembering her cat Butters, Sera touches the dead wolf and, channeling her gift, resurrects it. The creature, instead of attacking her, licks her hand and walks away. This act awakens a new conflict within her. Her connection to the primogenitor of life and the fear that she was rejected by the primogenitor of death because of that power. Lost in thoughts about her purpose and the consequences of her gift, Sera bathes in the lake, unaware that someone watches her from the shadows. Chapter 10. The Night Encounter with the Lake God. While bathing in the stillness of the lake, Sera discovers she is not alone. The silver-eyed god emerges from the waterfall, sparking a tense and electrifying exchange. Ashamed by her nakedness, Sera confronts him for watching her in such a vulnerable moment, but he insists he arrived first. Between sarcasm, provocations, and double meanings, the tension transforms into a palpable connection. Although she threatens him with her dagger, he maintains a charming calm, awakening in her a blend of attraction, anger, and bewilderment. During their conversation, he introduces himself as Ash. The scene is interrupted when both sense an unknown presence. Armed, Ash detects that they are not alone. What at first seems to Sera like spirits turns out to be something more dangerous. Their intimate encounter becomes a silent preparation to face a new threat together, as night in the dark elms grows deadly under the menace of unknown creatures. Chapter 11. The Hunter's Attack and Ash's Secret. A monstrous threat emerges from the woods. 6 hunters, creatures called Gyrms with sewn mouths and hollow eyes, attack Sera and Ash. He, with divine skill, dispatches several, while Sera courageously confronts one, even taking its Umbra stone sword. During the fight, a creature unleashes snakes from its mouth, Sera's greatest fear. Facing her panic, she manages to destroy it. However, she stumbles and hits her head, losing consciousness. Upon waking, she lies against Ash's thigh, who cares for her with unexpected tenderness. They talk intimately as he reveals startling secrets. Gods are not always who we think, the primals were not eternal, and some Gyrms, like the hunters, were mortals who offered their souls in exchange for their desires. The connection between them grows, sliding between touches, confessions, and intense emotional tension, as both confront truths that could alter the fate of gods and mortals alike. Chapter 12. Confessions Under the Moon and a Lethal Flower. Sera and Ash remain alone at the lake, where an intimate conversation reveals deep wounds and hidden desires. Ash confesses having killed a friend to save many lives, while Sera is surprised by the sincerity with which he speaks. The emotional connection intensifies when Ash compares Sera to a lethal flower from Elysium, seemingly delicate but capable of taking down a god. As the night progresses, they share confidences and sarcasm that mask the growing attraction. They speak of the shadowed lands, of Dalos, and of the Vale, a place reserved only for the worthy. Amid jokes and half-truths, physical and emotional tension rises. Finally, Ash admits wanting to kiss her, and Sera, driven by a mix of desire and the need to feel alive, responds firmly. The first kiss opens the door to a new intimacy charged with yearnings and unspoken revelations. Chapter 13. Forbidden pleasure between goddess and mortal. The kiss between Sera and Ash unleashes a wave of pent-up desire, leading to an intense and deeply intimate scene. In the midst of the forest, their bodies explore each other without shame, guided by curiosity and mutual connection. Ash, with his visible fangs and expert caresses, leads Sera to experience overwhelming pleasure, filled with tenderness and wild passion. The chemistry between them is visceral, marked by an exchange of power and consent. Despite the intensity of the moment, Ash chooses not to go further, prioritizing self-control over impulse. Sera, surprised by his restraint, understands that what was shared was more than physical. It was an encounter that made her feel alive, desired, and seen like never before. Although certain boundaries are not crossed, the experience leaves a burning mark on both. When Ash departs, the sense of loss intoxicates Sera, who fears that the magic of that moment will dissolve into oblivion. Chapter 14. Protests, Secrets, and the Coeur tragedy. After a night of passion, Sera confronts reality. Violent protests in Croft's Cross leave many dead and injured, while the crown remains indifferent. Ezra, exhausted, confirms King Ernold and Tavius's inaction. Sera, moved by her stepsister's compassion, reflects on her role in a kingdom on the brink of collapse. Then, she visits the kitchens to get food and help the needy. While distributing supplies, she witnesses the rot advancing relentlessly, withering the land. Upon arriving at the Coeur home, she finds the door ajar and an eerie silence. The stench and flies lead her to a room where she finds Pen, Amaris, and their 2 children dead in bed. An empty vial suggests a collective suicide in despair. Overwhelmed by guilt and pain, Sera realizes it is already too late. The land is dying, her people too, and she still has not fulfilled her destiny. Chapter 15. The confrontation with Tavius and powerlessness before the crown. Sera, outraged by the Coeur family's suicide, confronts King Ernold and Tavius with a contained fury that erupts upon seeing the castle's indifference to the people's misery. She accuses the crown of doing nothing to prevent the tragedy, demanding rationing and aid. Tavius, cruel and condescending, taunts Sera until she throws a bowl of dates at him, striking his arm. The king intervenes, surprisingly defending Sera, and expels Tavius from the hall. In an unusual moment of tenderness, Ernold assures Sera that things will improve with time, but his words leave her with a bitter sense of inaction. As she walks the corridors, she hears a whisper asking for help. She enters a room and finds a young servant who, with fear in her voice, whispers one word before a latch shuts the door. She's sorry. Sera falls into a trap. Chapter 16. The guards ambush and Callum's arrival. Tricked by a false plea for help, Sera faces 3 guards who attempt to kill her for money. Without mercy, she unleashes her trained skills and survives, killing all 3 with brutal efficiency. Although she suspects Tavius, she cannot prove his involvement. The fight ends just as Callum, a god of Dalos's court, bursts in with guards and the queen. To avoid being incriminated, Sera lies with blood on her hands, and the trembling servant confirms her version. The next day, Sera helps Ezra with the wounded while they reflect on the possibility that Tavius was behind the attack. A new god, Ector, approaches her mysteriously and hands her an umber stone dagger, sent, she suspects, by Ash. It is the first gift anyone has ever given her. Excited and confused, she caresses the dragon-carved hilt, knowing this weapon was made just for her. Chapter 17. The Rite, Colos's arrival, and Ezra's plea. Odetta's death leaves Sera devastated, yet determined to honor her passing without tears. The following day, she suffers unexplained physical pain, and Sir Holland prepares a comforting infusion for her. During the rite, she infiltrates the Temple of the Sun, where she witnesses the arrival of Colos, the primogenitor of life. His gaze, fixed directly on Sera, sends a shiver through her and confirms her connection to him. That night, Ezra appears with blood on her dress, begging for urgent help. She leads Sera to a carriage where Mari's lifeless body lies. Horrified, Sera confirms she is dead, but Ezra insists it does not have to remain that way. She knows Sera possesses the gift to bring her back to life. Ezra's plea strikes Sera deeply. She is the only one capable of reversing the tragedy. The chapter closes with the decision hanging in the air, suspended between the weight of a forbidden gift and the unbreakable love of a desperate friend. Chapter 18. Sera's miracle and Ezra's confession. Ezra begs Sera to use her forbidden gift to save Marisol, who lies dead in the carriage. At first, Sera hesitates, remembering when she resurrected her cat Butters and was punished by her mother. Desperate, Ezra confesses that she loves Marisol and cannot lose her. Moved by that sincere love, Sera relents and channels her power. A silver glow emanates from her hands, and to her astonishment, Marisol revives, confused but without signs of trauma. Ezra invents an excuse to conceal the truth. Outside, grateful, she tells Sera that she is a blessing, not a failure. The moment culminates in an unexpected embrace, the first Sera has ever received, and an "I love you" that Sera can only answer in silence. Though she acted out of love and loyalty, Sera knows she has crossed a dangerous line. She has played at being a primogenia, defying Odetta's warning. Chapter 19. Tavius's rise and the betrayal of Sera. After the miracle, Sera wakes late in her room, but her relief is short-lived. She finds Tavius inside, drunk and disheveled. He hints at a conversation that grows increasingly threatening. Producing the Umbra stone dagger he stole from her, he drives it into the wardrobe. When Sera tries to retrieve it, Tavius brutally throws her onto the bed and pins her down, revealing devastating news. The king died during the night, and he has taken the throne. He despises Sera for her lineage and fears she could challenge his power. He then confesses that he sent Sir Holland to Vodina, likely to his death. Out of control, Tavius insults and humiliates her. Finally, he drags her to the Great Hall, binds her to Colos's statue, and, before witnesses, begins to whip her. Amid the pain, Sera retreats inward and swears that one day she will kill him with her own hands. Chapter 20. Sera's vengeance and the return of the primogenitor. At the height of the torment, the hall trembles and a rift between worlds opens. From it emerges Nyktos, the primogenitor of death, revealing that he was Ash all along. Before the horrified assembly, he annihilates the guards with a glance and cruelly punishes Pike. Tavius attempts to beg, but the primogenitor leaves him impaled and humiliated. Ezra supports his punishment, while Khalif pleads in vain for his life. With icy fury, Sera frees herself and takes up the Umbra stone sword. She fulfills her promise and mutilates Tavius, killing him with brutal resolve. Then she declares that the throne should belong to Ezra. When she confronts Nyktos, furious over years of suffering, she strikes him. He restrains her firmly without harming her, revealing that he always knew who she was. Sera accuses him of breaking their pact and declares that now she will fulfill her duty. The tension between them burns, and the promise of love, vengeance, and destiny is sealed in blood. Chapter 21. The Forced Bargain and the Hidden Lake Portal. After Tavius's death, Sera confronts Ash, questioning his motives for finally claiming her as his consort. Amid reproaches and long-held tensions, they argue over the true meaning of the pact sealed years earlier. Ash reveals that their bond runs deeper. By tasting her blood, he can feel her extreme emotions. He decides to take her with him to protect her from the primogenitors who might use her as a weapon against him. Reluctantly, Sera agrees. Using either, Ash transports her to the Dark Elms, where they mount Odin, a massive black horse. Along the way, Ash reveals that the lake where Sera always felt at peace is actually a portal to the Shadowed Lands, hidden beneath Umber stone. As they cross it, Sera discovers an unexpected connection between her past, her gift, and the world of the gods. At the threshold of the journey, Ash admits that at the lake, he was only Ash, not the primogenitor of death. Chapter 22. Arrival in Hades and the Flight of the Drakens. Sera awakens in the world of the Shadowed Lands, where a sky without sun or moon glows with silver stars. Aboard Odin and surrounded by mist, she encounters colossal creatures. The Drakens, guardians who were once dragons and can now take divine form. Nyktos, the largest among them, approaches and allows Sera to touch him, proving he poses no threat. Ash guides her to Hades, his palatial stronghold protected by the city of Lethe and the Rampart, a wall impaled with the bodies of rebellious gods. The horror of that sight contrasts with the warmth inside. She meets Rain, Ash's trusted guard, and the twins Layla and Theon, accompanied by a small draken named Reaver. In the Grand Hall, Ash presents her as his consort, prompting surprise and teasing. Overwhelmed by this new world, Sera can only wonder how much more unsettling what remains to be discovered will be. Chapter 23. Confessions in the Bath and Wounds Without Scars. Ios guides Sera to a luxurious chamber beside Ash's quarters. Stunned by its size and comfort, Sera wavers between gratitude and unease. Ios, kind yet mysterious, assures her she is safe in Hades, though she admits no one else lives in the palace for security reasons. Later, alone, Sera bathes while replaying everything that has happened. Ash enters unexpectedly and, in an intimate gesture of care, offers to wash her hair. During the bath, emotional and physical tension builds. They speak of the bargain, of ignored summons, of lives lived apart. Ash confesses that he can taste her emotions, and that what he felt when he saw her at the throne was fear, determination, and anguish. Sera finds herself caught between their growing closeness and her secret plan. As the primogenitor's hands tend to her wounded body, Sera realizes that no one has ever touched her with such gentleness, not even in childhood. Chapter 24. Confessions Beneath the Water and Burning Truths. In an intimate exchange, Sera and Ash confront the uncomfortable truths surrounding the pact that binds them. He reveals that he can feel the intense emotions of others, including hers, and shows her that even if she accepted the bargain, it was never a free choice. Sera feels a measure of respect upon realizing he never wanted a forced consort, though she questions why he asked for one at all. The tension between them escalates in the bath and culminates in a sensual moment that slips beyond their control, marking an unexpected emotional turning point. Ash proves that the desire between them transcends duty and that he recognizes his limits, even when she attempts to seduce him as part of her plan. In the end, Sera realizes she is the one who has been seduced, exposing a connection that threatens to shatter her original purpose. Seduction becomes a dangerous game between obligation and undeniable desire. Chapter 25. The Origin of the Bargain and the Shadows of a Primal. Ash reveals that it was not he who sealed the bargain with Lysania, but his father, the former primogenitor of Death, now deceased. This pact, made with Mierel, required the first female descendant as consort. Sera is shocked to learn that Ash was only her age when he inherited that fate, along with his father's power. Realizing that both were dragged into this without consent, her perception begins to shift. She also learns that Lathan, a divine being close to Ash, secretly protected her to keep her mark from attracting enemies. She discovers that the deaths of Andrea and the Kazans may be tied to her bloodline. Ash confesses he feared other primogenitors would use her existence to hurt him. This revelation makes Sera question the duty that drives her: to kill someone who never chose the deal and has shown more compassion than she expected. Doubt begins to take root. Chapter 26. The Draken watched freedom and dinner with the Primal. After days in isolation, Sera meets Davina, a Draken who calls her Liesa, my queen. She learns that Ash has been occupied dealing with lost souls in the Withering Woods, and that gods don't just die, they become lost. Later, Sayan escorts her to dinner with Ash in a stunning room lit by stars. Ash tries to apologize for isolating her and returns her Umbra stone dagger, showing his trust. The tension between them eases briefly with the arrival of Jadis, a charming young Draken who bonds quickly with Sera. Ash explains the magical link between Drakens and primogenitors, the danger of weakening them, and his choice not to feed. The conversation turns light, intimate, and revealing, blending humor and tenderness. Jadis curls up in her lap as Ash hints they must discuss more serious matters. Sera knows time is running out, and her plan still hangs between attraction and duty. Chapter 27. Rules, Truths, and the Ghosts of the Past. Ash takes Sera on a tour of Hades, explaining the conditions of her freedom. She may explore the palace and gardens, but must not enter the Red Forest without him nor leave the city until officially presented as his consort. Sera, irritated, questions every rule, only to learn they're meant to protect her. During their conversation, they visit the library where Sera sees portraits of Ash's parents. He confesses that his mother was murdered while he was still in the womb and that he survived miraculously. His father, deeply in love, couldn't protect her, leaving Ash with the belief that love is a deadly risk. The revelation moves Sera, who begins to understand that his restrictions don't stem from control, but from fear of repeating tragedy. Amid tension, restrained desire, and emotional wounds, they face their limits while the memory of Ash's parents casts a shadow over everything they feel. Chapter 28. Suspicions, Jealousy, and a Wounded Hawk. Alone in her chambers, Sera reflects on Ash's emotional scars and what they mean for her mission: to make him fall in love. She watches the Red Forest and remembers his warnings, but her unease grows when Ash disappears for days, isolating her while receiving a mysterious visitor. Upon discovering its Vices, a hypnotically beautiful primogenitor, Sera's confusion turns into intense jealousy. Unable to stay still, she disobeys orders and escapes the castle to wander near the Red Forest. There she finds a wounded hawk. Upon touching it, a new, instinctive power awakens. Sera heals it without understanding how. Shocked, she wonders if her gift is evolving. Then she notices the vegetation has turned gray, as if affected by the rot. Realizing the danger, she is ambushed by several hunters. Alone, armed with her dagger, she fights back, unaware that a far more terrifying threat lies beneath the ground. Chapter 29. The Red Forest, Buried Gods, and Ash's Fury. Amid the battle, Sera confronts creatures rising from the earth. Not hunters or shadows, but buried gods, condemned to live among roots stained with their own blood. Fighting to survive, she discovers her touch affects these beings. And though she kills several, she's nearly overpowered. At the last moment, Ash appears and unleashes his fury. With silver flames and sharp commands, he saves her once again, but also scolds her harshly. He reveals the Red Forest is cursed, fed by the blood of punished gods, and that her mere presence and spilled blood could have awakened them. Ash's anger intensifies when Sera admits she was scratched by a hunter. Pain grips her, and Saiyan, alarmed, rushes her back. The dark infection spreads through her arm, and Sera's consciousness fades amid pain, guilt, and venomous magic. Chapter 30. The Antidote and Ash's Choice. Seraphena awakens disoriented in Hades under Nyktos' watch. The Draken explains that she survived thanks to a rare potion that expelled the GYRM's toxin. Sera learns Ash chose to save her, even though it would have been easier to let her die and be free of the bargain. Ios tends to her and encourages her to drink, while Nyktos hints that Ash's recent choices don't stem from duty. When Ash returns, they discuss the buried gods, the hunters, and the dying shadowed lands. Tension flares when Visis's name is mentioned, leading to a painful confession about Sera's loneliness. Desire ignites, and Ash touches her gently, leading her to pleasure and revealing his interest without restraint. He stays with her afterward, sharing a new kind of intimacy that leaves Sera unsettled, desired, and keenly aware of the emotional risk. Chapter 31. Chosen Ones, Coronation and Hidden Truths. Recovered, Sera spends the day with Ios and the Drakens as Reaver learns to fly and Jadis causes mischief. In conversation, Ios describes Visis's dangerous reputation, her obsession with Ash, and the toll of an eternity lived without rest. Bele and Rahar arrive, confirming that word of a mortal consort has spread and that other courts are watching with bets and suspicion. Bele warns that the coronation will be dangerous and that Sera must show no fear. Later, the seamstress Erlina takes her measurements and reveals she was once chosen but never ascended. Ash confirms a brutal truth. The right no longer elevates the chosen, but condemns them to abuse and death. Sera learns Ash hides and rescues as many as he can, including Gemma, now missing. The revelation shakes her faith, ignites fury, and raises a dilemma that could change everything, for herself and for the realm. Chapter 32. Sleepless Nights and Marks of Blood. Unable to sleep, Sera reflects on Lysania, the Chosen, and the cost of fulfilling her mission. On the balcony, she finds Ash, also sleepless, and they share confidences about soul judgments, guilt, and impossible choices. Ash confesses how he stopped answering mortal pleas after realizing he was starting to enjoy the punishment, and Sera admits her own killings and doubts about her nature. He calls her Liesa and absolves her from seeing herself as a monster. Their closeness turns into desire and comfort. Sera explores Ash's marked body, discovering his tattoos represent lost lives and honoring his burden. Through caresses and surrender, she takes the lead and offers him pleasure, making the primogenitor of death tremble. Their encounter ends in intense kisses and shared gratitude, leaving Sera present, alive, and at peace with herself as the night holds secrets and future promises between two entwined destinies. Chapter 33. The Ember's Awakening and Gemma's Resurrection. Sera wakes in Ash's arms, recognizing the warmth and intimacy as something she has never known. Jadi's asleep at her feet and Nyktos' arrival, who claims she has brought peace to Ash, deeply unsettle her. Later, a walk with Hector leads her to a courtyard where they witness Gemma's return, brutally beaten and near death. The sight of her body triggers an unstoppable impulse in Sera. Her gift resurges with overwhelming force. White and silver light flows from her hands and completely heals and resurrects Gemma. The scene leaves everyone stunned. Ash, shaken, reveals that Sera carries an ember of life, an ancient source of power. The miracle released a wave of energy so intense it may have been felt across all of Elysium, drawing the attention of dangerous primogenitors. Chapter 34. The Legacy Revealed and the Looming Danger. Sera's gift has unleashed a power wave across Elysium, and Ash demands absolute silence. Nyktos arrives, confirming that other primogenitors will come seeking the source of that energy. Ash confronts Sera, and she, unable to hide it any longer, confesses she previously used her gift to revive a hawk and save Marisol. He deduces that her ability does not come from Kalis, as believed, but from her true father, Nyktos, the real primogenitor of life. Kalis, his twin, stole his power, swapping destinies in a devastating act that caused natural disasters and a rupture in the balance between life and death. The story of Sotoria, her rebirth, and the soul mark reveals the origin of an ancient war. Ash discloses that Kalis murdered his mother and that Nyktos' soul remains imprisoned. Horrified, Sera grasps the magnitude of her inherited tragedy. Chapter 35. The Truth Behind the Bargain and the Rot's Future. In the war room, surrounded by shocked gods, Sera listens as Ash recounts how Kalis stole the power of life. The ember Sera carries was hidden in her bloodline by Nyktos as a last resort to preserve hope. Nyktos explains that her power is both a blessing and a curse, and Ash reveals that Kalis cannot create new life, hence why the Chosen no longer ascend. Sera realizes the rot isn't caused by the broken bargain, as she was told, but by the absence of a true primogenitor of life. The ember within her, contained in a mortal body, has begun to weaken, accelerating the decay. Through tears and rage, Sera confesses she was trained to kill Ash and fulfill the bargain. Devastated by the betrayal, he nearly loses control, until an alarm signals an imminent siege. Chapter 36. The Dakai Attack at the Bay. A power surge alerts the gods, and Nyktos prepares for the worst, suspecting something has reached the shadowed lands. Though he distrusts Sera, he agrees to bring her along. At the bay, they discover Dakai creatures rising from the waters, destroying ships and spreading chaos. These hounds, sent to detect either, are clearly targeting Sera. Guards and gods fight fiercely as Sera proves her training, shooting arrows with deadly precision. Bele, Theon, and others join the battle. Nyktos confronts the Dakai head-on, revealing superhuman skills and a bond with his horse Odin. Finally, an enemy Draken appears and battles Nyktos' Drakens. Nyktos defeats him, and when the Draken shifts into human form, he reveals that Kalis sent him and that he knows of the hidden power. The threat is only beginning. Chapter 37. Nyktos is wound and his feeding. After the battle, Sera returns to the palace under Rain and Hector's watch, determined to confront Nyktos. He returns wounded and unable to heal due to the toll of combat, refusing help. Tensions erupt. Nyktos accuses her of betrayal while Sera defends herself with a fury born of years of guilt, pain, and repression. The argument ends with the realization that he must feed to survive. Nyktos suggests Sera offer herself, and she agrees despite the risk. In Nyktos' chamber, his weakness is clear, and his control faltering. Sera insists, challenging his warnings. In a moment thick with emotional and physical tension, Nyktos gives in and, on the verge of collapse, bites her. The act blends desire, need, and danger as their bond deepens. Their future is sealed with blood, passion, and a looming threat. Chapter 38. Blood, Desire, and Lost Control. Nyktos feeds from Sera, and the initial pain turns into a wave of shared desire that overwhelms them both. Sera's blood heals the primogenitor and awakens a physical and emotional bond neither has known before. His hunger mixes with need and loss of control, while Sera chooses to offer herself, not out of duty or sacrifice, but by her own will. Their union becomes intense, marked by blood, pleasure, and either vibrating beneath Nyktos' skin, as his shadows nearly emerge. Sera senses his inner struggle and grounds him with touch and trust, reversing their roles and claiming her own desire. Nyktos regains strength and control, though he admits the risk of losing himself. They climax in an exchange that changes them forever. Afterward, silence brings distance and suspicion, making it clear that desire cannot erase betrayal. Chapter 39. Guilt, Broken Calm, and a New Threat. Sera wakes alone in Nyktos' chamber, grappling with confusion after the night they shared, Kalas's looming threat, and the weight of the Ember of life. She knows she's not a threat to the primogenitor but still longs for his respect and friendship, though she doubts it's possible. Nyktos leaves a robe and sends hot water, a gesture that moves her and deepens her guilt. Paxton speaks of the attack on the rampart and how people admire her bravery, increasing her inner conflict. Exhausted, Sera bathes, trying to collect her thoughts and regain control. As fatigue overtakes her, a presence shatters the calm. A shadow surprises her in the bath, and someone grabs her with a cord around her neck, ending her sense of safety and signaling an immediate threat that will forever alter the course of the Shadowed Lands. Chapter 40. Assassination Attempt, a Revelation, and the Price of Truth. An attack in the bath leaves Sera fighting for her life against Hamid, who tries to strangle her. With determination, she wounds him using a broken stool just as Nyktos bursts in, alerted by their blood connection. His reaction is fierce. Shadows swirl, either blazes, and Ector destroys the attacker's soul before they can interrogate him. Tensions rise when it's revealed that Hamid was a loyal Shadowed Lands resident whose mother was destroyed by Kalas. After calming the chaos, Nyktos worries for Sera, who notices her skin is no longer cold. The possible cause, her blood. Sera reveals a persistent headache, which Nyktos identifies as a symptom of the sacrifice caused by the Ember of life within her. Though she won't ascend, her body reacts as if it holds either. In the end, Nyktos declares she will be his consort only in name and denies any chance of redemption or friendship between them. Chapter 41. Memories, Revelations, and the Arrival of a Goddess. Exhausted and demoralized after Nyktos' coldness, Sera agrees to visit Gemma, guided by Ios. The young woman confirms she died and acknowledges Sera as the one who brought her back. Gemma admits to telling Hamid about her resurrection, which drove him to attack Sera out of fear that Kalas might reach the Shadowed Lands. Through Gemma, Sera learns that Kalas referred to the power source he sought as a Greeka, viewing it as his possession. Worse still, he speaks of his reborn, chosen turned into cold creatures with black eyes and insatiable hunger. Kalas calls them his unfinished work, awaiting perfection through the Greeka. Aware that Odetta mentioned the fates when speaking of her birth, Sera concludes the Eri may hold answers. With Ios and Bele, she sets out to find Nyktos, just as the goddess Cressa steps into the hall, wrapped in a supernatural glow. Chapter 42. Cressa's Attack and the Arrival of the Three Gods. Chaos erupts in the Temple of the Sun as Cressa attacks with either gravely wounding Ios and then stabbing Bele with an Umbra stone dagger. Sera is caught between enemies, unarmed and unable to defend herself, as she watches Bele collapse, unable to heal. Nyktos appears and strikes her, knocking her unconscious. When she awakens, Sera finds the three gods, Cressa, Nyktos, and Tarek, present, seeking to confirm her identity. Tarek brutally subdues her, biting her and delving into her memories, inflicting unbearable pain. Just as Sera nears collapse, Nyktos arrives and changes everything. His power as a primogenitor fully manifests, with solid wings and a terrifying form. Upon seeing Sera hurt, Nyktos unleashes his wrath. He eliminates Cressa and Nyktos effortlessly and delivers such brutal punishment to Tarek that the entire throne trembles. Chapter 43. Bele's Impossible Ascension. Nyktos confronts Tarek with devastating fury. Ignoring the god's pleas, he rips out his heart with his bare hands. The tension briefly eases when Saiyan aids Sera, but anguish returns upon discovering that Bele has died. Driven by guilt and resolve, Sera attempts to revive her. With support from Ios and Nyktos, she channels the Ember of life within her. The energy explodes in light and wind, shaking the palace. Against all odds, Bele breathes again, her eyes glowing silver, and she has changed. She has ascended. No one can explain it. Emotion fills the room as Hector declares what occurred is impossible. Nyktos, shaken, reveals that Sera hasn't just restored life. She has transformed Bele into something new. A full ascension, a feat reserved for gods and primogenitors. And Sera has achieved it. Chapter 44. The Awakening of a Power That Changes Everything. Sera recovers in Nyktos' office, still in shock from Bele's ascension. Saiyan and Hector are restless, unable to comprehend how it happened. Nyktos confirms that Sera's power has unleashed a wave the other primogenitors will feel, especially Hanan. The fear of retaliation is real. They discuss the victors, reborn beings with purpose, and Sera suspects Holland may have been one. Reaver, the young Draken, arrives and interrupts the conversation. Nyktos summons Nyktos, informing him that one of the Eri has answered their call. In the throne room, Sera and Nyktos meet Penelope, a goddess who guides them. The mood is solemn, and tension rises upon learning that a fate is present. Everything stops when Sera sees someone she thought lost. Sir Holland. The revelation paralyzes her. His appearance changes everything they thought they knew. Chapter 45. The Truth About Sera and the Ember of Life. Sera discovers that her mentor, Sir Holland, was never just a knight but an Eri, a spirit of fate who guided her life under divine law. Penelope, another goddess present, reveals that Sera doesn't carry just Nyktos' Ember of Life, but also that of her father, Nyktos. He hid his power within the Mierel bloodline to protect it from Kalas, making Sera the vessel of an impossible force. The prophecy Penelope received speaks of two daughters born of fire and ash, and a herald destined to bring destruction. In a stunning twist, Holland reveals that Sera's soul has lived many lives. She is the reincarnation of Sotoria. The conclusion is devastating. Sera is not only the key to the prophecy but the only existing primogenitor of life. If she dies, all creation will die with her. And that's the end of A Shadow in the Ember, a story filled with impossible choices and unforgettable consequences. Thanks for staying until the end. If you enjoyed this summary, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share it with fellow fantasy lovers. Now tell me in the comments, do you think Sera should follow her original destiny or forge her own path? What would you do in her place?